Yep. All right, it being 7 o'clock, I'm going to call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order. The first order of business, I'm going to turn it over to Mike from the Monadnock Rail Trail Collaborative and let you get in and out and done right off quick.
Okay, great, thank you. Thanks for having me. My name is Mike Walter.
Yeah, if you could just hold the microphone so everybody can hear.
Okay, everybody can hear me okay? Okay, my name is Mike Kowalczyk. I'm from the town of Swansea. About 3 or 4 years ago, I got involved with the rail trails in Swansea and the committee there. And then about 9 or 10 months ago, several of us got together, trail advocates around the area, and said, hey, maybe we should be thinking bigger picture. And we came up with this group called Monadnock Region Rail Trail Collaborative. And what I'm going to present now is what we call our Regional Rail Trail Big Picture. So we're an informal group. We're made up of representatives from local municipalities, nonprofits, volunteers that recognize the value in collaborating on shared goals and interests for improving the regional rail trails. And the goal is to restore and maintain the Cheshire, Ashwelot, and Fort Hill rail trails throughout the Monadnock region. Basically, we want to connect southwest New Hampshire with Bellows Falls, Brattleboro, and Winchendon down in Massachusetts. About 3 months ago, things got bigger. We started contacting people on the Brattleboro side because we want to connect with them. The Bellows Falls side want to connect with them. And now it's become a tri-state effort, Vermont, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. And so these here are people that have been involved with this so far. So we got Friends of the West River, which is over in the Brattleboro area, the Sustainability Coordinator in Brattleboro, the town of Winchester, Hinsdale, Brattleboro, et cetera. All these other groups have gotten involved to help make this happen. These are other supporters. These are other supporters that we've contacted or we've presented to, and they're supporting the effort that we're trying to do here. So, what's the mission? Basically, making the alternative transportation connection, and it involves 3 states, 13 municipalities, and 7 trails. So, as I mentioned, the 3 states are Vermont, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. The trails are the Saxon River Trail, which is up in the Bellows Falls area, the Cheshire Trail, which runs down through New Hampshire from Bellows Falls down to Winchendon, the Ashwelot Trail, which comes through here and goes over to Brattleboro, the Fort Hill Trail that then, goes from South Hinsdale up into Brattleboro, the West River Trail, which is over in Brattleboro and runs up into Vermont going northwest. And then down in the Winchendon area, there's what's called the North Central Pathway that goes down to Gardner. And there's also what's called the Ware River Trail that goes to Templeton and Barr. So we'd be making connections to all of those. All the municipalities are basically the ones I listed, are the ones that these trails go through. So you can see there's quite a few here, plus everybody we connect with when we connect with these other trails. So every town along the West River Trail, Saxon River Trail, et cetera, would also be connected. So how to read this map? The green means that the trail has been restored and is in great shape and in maintenance mode, usable by bikers, walkers, 5-year-old can ride a bike on it, runners, that type of thing. Yellow means that it's in some sort of planning stage. It could mean it's under construction. It could mean there's a grant and we're in the middle of working on it, or it could mean we're in early planning stages. And the red are sections that, to our knowledge, there is no plan to do improvement, and that's why we've been working together here to work on this section down here. So basically the plan is restore and maintain the Cheshire Trail, again from Bellows Falls down to Winchendon, do the same for Ashwelot Trail from Keene over to South Hinsdale, the Fort Hill Trail from South Hinsdale up to Brattleboro, and then up north, cross the river into Bellows Falls, down in Mass, get down to Winchendon down here, and then in the Brattleboro area connect to the West River on that side. Also provide amenities along the trail like wayfinding and signage, hydration stations, repair stations, traffic counters so we know what the traffic looks like, and also historical landmarks and descriptions. There is still a lot of railroad type stuff out on the trails. I thought you might have interest in what's the connection on this side. So this is the Fort Hill Trail coming up here. The plan would require to put in a trail along 119, I'm sorry, up here. It's about a mile long, cross the river at the island, and then put a trail in along the river up to the West River Trail. So that's the connection for from here to get to Brattleboro. Trail lengths, Cheshire's 43 miles, we're talking. Ashwillet's 21 3/4. Fort Hill's 8.5. The connection up in Bellows Falls is about 2 miles. The connection down in Winchton area is about 4. And the connection in the Brattleboro area is about 2.5. Total 82 miles of trail. Plus, when you make the connections, then you get the West River Trail, and I think it's like 15 or 20, the Saxon River, you know, you make those bigger connections. So what's the current status this year? So Keene has plans to finish the section of trail in West Keene to start work this year on that. We have a grant, a TAP grant in Swansea to do the Cheshire section in Swansea and also a little bit in Marlborough. The Monadnock Conservancy is looking to do 2.5 miles down to the Fitzwilliam area, and they were recently awarded the RTP grant to do that work, so that'll happen next year. Keene has a plan. I don't know how familiar you are with the Cheshire Trail in Keene, but it ends, or it appears to end, at Eastern Ave today because it's so overgrown going south from there, and there's no bridge over 101, and then you end up at the Stone Arch Bridge. So they've put a plan together that they've submitted and they're starting to work on to get the bridge over 101 and clear the trail from there down to Eastern Ave. It would also include upgrading the Stone Arch Bridge for pedestrian safety and things like that. Same TAP grant, Swansea is going to fix the Ashwillet Trail down to the Winchester-Swansea town line. And we're in the early engineering phases of that. So we've been approved and we've gone through picking an engineer, and so now we get the next step to do some preliminary engineering. Keene added a kiosk at the head of the trail this year, so that got put in. As far as maintenance, maintenance is always really important to keep the trails maintained. So in Swansea, we put in for an RTP grant, got awarded to rent an excavator next year to clear, we estimate about 11 miles of ditch that needs to be cleared to get the water flowing correctly again. And then we formed this collaborative group over here, Winchester, Hinsdale, Brattleboro, and this group has met, I don't know, 3 or 4 times so far. We're in the planning stages. We got the USDA Rural Development involved with us, very excited to help us out. And so we're kind of moving forward on that. And there was the Northern Borders Regional Commission's grant that was submitted, or the letter of intent that Margaret's working on. And a similar group has formed for what I call the Northern Leg to get from Surrey up to Bellows Falls. A little bit behind this group, but we do have a group working together. We did a little, what I call the walkabout of some parts of the trail here. There's a couple washout areas and things that need to be addressed, but it is coming along. Traffic, these are traffic numbers that we get from Southwest Regional Planning Commission. They put counters out on the trails and then they do estimates, annual estimates. So you can see the numbers here, 224,000 in Keene, and then it drops off quite a bit, and I'll get into why I think that's happening. But they did a pretty good study of the Ashwillet Trail, and you can see the numbers, 96,000, and they slowly drop off. And then down here in Winchester, it actually picks back up again quite a bit. So there's a lot more traffic down here, and then drops off again. And then we don't have any numbers on the Fort Hill Trail. So, questions, why are they dropping? A few reasons. One is population. So Keene is kind of the urban center of the area. There's more people there, so you would expect more traffic. So that's one reason. Second reason is disconnects. Like I said, that bridge is missing over 101. And that's why I think people don't even know that they can go from Keene and get into Swansea on the trail, because it doesn't even look like there's a trail there. And of course, we're disconnected with all of our neighbors, our neighboring cities. Trail condition, and when I say trail condition, I'm thinking for bikers, walkers, runners, hikers. You know, the snowmobile clubs do a lot of work on the trails throughout the whole region, and they do that for the snowmobiles. And I believe that the condition you need for bikers, runners, walkers, etc., throughout the whole year is a little bit, I guess, higher quality. The surface needs to be better, things like that. Anyway, so some of the conditions of the trail are that people can't pass. Maybe you can walk, but you can't bike it. You know, it kind of varies. So that could be another reason why traffic drops. Like I said, we're not connected to our neighboring towns, and Keene is the urban center, so people are naturally going to migrate there. Restaurants, entertainment, hotels, things like that. So the major challenges are at the connectors. The one up north, got to cross the river there and connect with the Saxon River Trail. Okay. It stopped. Okay, connecting over here with, in the west side with Brattleboro and the West River, and connecting in the south, Winchendon with the Cheshire Trail and the North Central Pathway. So again, what does restore mean? I kind of mentioned this. So upgrade and improve the trails to a standard that is suitable for walkers, bikers, hikers, and runners, and equestrian of all ages. And that means the drainage ditches are working, the culverts are working, the trail surface is 14 feet wide, it's crushed stone, crowned, there's a canopy to get mowers and other equipment up and down the trail, and also get gate crossings at roads that don't have them to prevent the motorized access and dumping. And we did a cleanup on the Cheshire Trail in Swansea back in June, where trucks could get on the trail, and we pulled out 100 tires and half a dozen mattresses and pipes and car parts and all kinds of stuff. Why do all this? I get this information from what's called the greenways.com site, where they did a study on the value of greenways. Rail trail is a greenway. One, creating value. So real estate, the value of real estate is higher along a greenway, and it also increases tourism. They have data that says if you have a good greenway infrastructure, people will bike to work. They'll use biking for commuting up to 5 miles. They'll use walking up to 2 miles. Naturally improves health. People are more active, therefore their health gets better, therefore their medical costs are lower, and they even had data that said deaths can be reduced. Also helps with the environment. Plants and animal species can thrive more, less air pollution if people are biking and walking more, protecting streams and rivers, which is kind of related to flood control. Also, and then cultural awareness, and in this case, I think bring out the railroad history. These are funding sources that we've accumulated over the last 3 months or so, potential funding sources of where we can get funding to do this. So the list is actually fairly long. So we're looking into all of these as potential funders. Maintenance, preserving the investment. I saw a talk a year ago, Chris Gamache from the Bureau of Trails said, hey, we put a lot of money in these, we gotta make sure we maintain them. So that means, you know, removing the leaves and the down trees and keeping the ditches cleared and culverts cleared. And that requires equipment like excavators, mowers, brush hogs, and especially people and schedules and things like that. So, kind of a summary, we're trying to put the pieces of the project together here. So we've got our big picture plan, we've got a list of potential funding sources, we're getting commitments from all the different towns. There are a couple right-of-way and encroachment issues that, you know, we're working on. Also federal and state agencies commitments. So like I said, USDA Rural Development is with us. The Bureau of Trails is with us from the state. Maintenance plans, which I kind of mentioned. We got working teams, like we have the team for this region together that we're working together. Also, do a cost estimate so we have an idea what this is going to cost us, and there are tools out there to do that. And then in the end, matching funds, because a lot of the grants require matching funds. Just last, give kudos to all the historical pictures you saw here. Came from a book called The Iron Roads of the Monadnock Region, Volume 1. So give these guys credit for all the work they did. And that's it. Thank you. Any questions?
Well, thank you.
Mike, is Vermont from Massachusetts going to honor our site or whatever is going down there using the trails? Do we have it registered in the States or?
That I don't know. We haven't talked snowmobiles when we make connections, so I don't know what like the snowmobile rules are going into Brattleboro if you cross the river or into Bellows Falls. We've been talking biking, running, hiking, you know, that type of thing.
So are all the trails open to snowmobiling, or
I don't know.
you don't know?
I just know New Hampshire, which you guys know, right? Which it kind of depends. Like you can't get
Dean,
into.
no states are not reciprocal, is that what you were?
Yeah, there's no reciprocation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? Questions, Margaret?
If I could just add to this, Mike and I and Tina and a few others have been working now on and off for the last couple of months, and we wanted to bring this more information to the selectmen and the public. I think this is a huge benefit for the entire region. Any of you can find on UNH website extension about nature and economy, the economic benefits of trails. They have how your rail trails bring literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to different areas across the country. And, you know, it's nature at its best, it's reusing something. It's an economic engine for the communities for many different reasons, and all this information is here. I did want to let you know I spoke with Catherine Lynch, and Mike gave this presentation Monday night at the Hinsdale Board of Selectmen meeting, and they told her to go for it, you know, to work with Winchester and the Monadnock Rail Trail Collaborative, and let's get this, you know, let's see what we can do. Obviously, it's a long-term project, you know, it's not going to happen overnight. But there's monies out there, and it's nice to know that Hinsdale's on board, and we want to work together on it. And so, that's important. I did put in the letter of intent for Northern Borders, a grant. I need to follow up on that. So I will be coming to the board, asking your permission to officially apply for that grant and to apply for USDA grants. A lot of this will be be joint grants with Hinsdale, and as most of you know, when you have two towns vying for something and you do it together, it gives you a lot more points for a grant. But as Mike said, you know, it was quite almost getting into budget time. You know, we'll be talking about match money. You know, you guys, the residents and you guys were great last year. We put $10,000 into that fund. You know, we'll be looking to do that. I'll say possibly more, but you know, it's a discussion, you know, for this upcoming year. But you know, to put 20,000 in and get 100 back, you can't quite argue that, and that's a good payment on money.
Right. That was the one and only question I wrote down that I wanted to ask. I'm obviously 100% in support of this. But besides the warrant article we did last year and possibly do this year, what other kind of commitment is the town looking at?
I think the commitment is trying to get people together to assist in this project, not just from the organizational part, but also from the working part. As you know, the Snowmobile Club is going to be, you know, doing the bridges. They were waiting for cooler weather, so it looks like the beginning of October. Some people have volunteered to help that, and that's great, but there's still always going to be money. So Mike and I have begun discussions, I'll say it that way, and I'll continue that with him and the rest of the crew. You know, there's going to have to be other types of fundraisers. You know, we're not just going to rely on a warrant article from any of the towns, whether it's Hinsdale or Winchester. There's going to have to be fundraisers, and there's going to have to be a group effort.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, so
And also, many of you may not know, there are a few copies up here. Mike had brought down some copies. It's a trail map that they have for Keene and Swansea, and it highlights certain areas, and what's the word I want to say? He's willing to share the, not the draft, but the work of it, you know, with, yeah, the brochure with Winchester and Hinsdale. So eventually, everything will be similar, same signage, same draft, so, you know, it carries on, you know, from Keene to Brattleboro and et cetera. So there's a lot of collaboration, a lot of positives here.
Right, so I have all the graphic design for the brochure.
That's the word I was trying to think of.
And the idea is have a common branding, so when people go through the area, they look at it, and say, oh, this is a rail trail brochure, just by looking at it, right, because the branding is the same.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm willing to share all those graphic files with every town, so we have it for the region, for Swansea, the snow moles, over on the Cheshire side, on Winchton is taking it, the Marcus Interested also.
Yeah, it's easier to follow a map town to town if they're all look
Yep.
similar.
It's the same look, exactly.
Right.
And what's nice about it, like you do, not only you have the trailheads, you have parking, water stations, repair area, scenic vistas, you know, where I personally believe Winchester has an advantage over some of the other towns, the way we literally border the Ashwillet River, and there's some amazing vistas. You can almost connect to Pisky Park. I mean, what is it? 1,000 feet in terms
Right.
of distance, but to get over to Pisky Park. So there's a lot of advantages, and so within that, you'll have wayfinding signage. You know, people can, the trail is in our downtown, they can come into downtown, so there's a lot that could become of this.
Right. Yep. Oh,
Dean, what's the, could you come up, please? What's the current cost to register a snowmobile?
What is it, what?
The current cost.
This one up is a little under $100.
All right, out of that $100, how much do you, roughly, the percentage of that goes, once the state has it, percentage of that $100 goes back to different grants and whatnot that are to fund these rails?
I can't tell you the answer to that, Jack. However, the state of New Hampshire, the Trails Bureau, and Fish and Game has put in a mega amount of information together for just that. And I can bring that down to Carrie tomorrow.
So, but
I
there,
can't tell you what all the numbers and the percentages are because some of the numbers, a little bit goes to enforcement.
Yep.
A good portion of it goes to enforcement. Some of the money that goes for registrations goes for trying to find lost people, right? The Trails Bureau gets a very large percentage of that money, which goes back, comes back out into two types of grants. A summer grant, which is for doing bridge projects like the project the club's got, brush hogging, that type of stuff, you know, doing all kinds of work, ditching work like that. In this winter, some of that money comes and goes into trail grooming, where the clubs are paid to groom the snowmobile trails for public use.
Yep.
So a lot of that is kind of like all that. So, and I can't give you the exact numbers, Jack, but that's how that
well,
works.
that's fine. I guess my next question would be, what's the current cost to register your side-by-side?
Oh, it's like $58.
Now, does that money and the does all registrations, no matter side-by-side or four-wheeler and snowmobile, do they all go into a general fund through the
It
state?
sure does.
Okay.
Yep.
So that being said, 100% of the people that ride their four-wheelers or side-by-side during the summertime, their money goes to help maintain these trails.
ATV trails.
Right. Wow.
Don't get them too confused.
No,
because-
that's why I was asking.
Okay, because there's a registration piece for snowmobiles, which some of that goes to feed, fish, and game, but also goes into the Great Aid programs, which then comes back to the clubs to fix stuff, buy equipment, and then to pay for grooming. Then there's the ATV piece. Those registration funds go to fishing game, but then they go to ATV clubs to get to trail maintenance, bridge work and type.
That's
So
why I
there's two
asked if it goes
separate,
into a general fund.
yeah, but
But it
they,
doesn't?
all goes in the general fund, but they keep track of it, and it's separated out.
Okay, that's what I
Because
needed.
we've gotta go to the governor, Jack, the governor has to sign off on the monies.
Right.
So I'm part of the committee that makes those decisions, helps with those decisions on where that money is spent at the state level.
And that's what I needed to know, because what I was getting at, and I think you know where I was getting headed with this, is, are you as a ATV rider helping any of your registration money going to maintain these trails, the rails?
No, not here.
Okay, that's what I needed.
Because these rails, the Cheshire line and the Ashwillet line and the Fort Hill line and the northern line that goes to Brad up north are not open to wheeled vehicles,
Right.
period.
How about the ones that are open up north?
No, it's nothing to do with it, that's up north.
I know, I
Those
understand,
trails
but-
were, those
But
trails
if the
were,
money, if the money's going into a fund that is dispersed throughout the whole state,
yeah. So the vast majority, Jack, of trails are on private land,
okay,
not state rail trail systems. Okay, so that money is spent given to a club and awarded to a club, right, for use in their trail system. Okay, so in Winchester we have 120 miles of trails because we include the park, because we also, the Snowmobile Club grooms the park as well. But in the summertime, the local ATV club only does about 22 miles of trails, which are only in the park, and now just most recently have expanded over into Hinsdale, because we're the ATV club's a Cheshire County Club. So now there's over 1,000 acres of land available to ATV riders in Hinsdale, which is part of that club too. So, but those monies are earmarked to a particular club that applies for it, only for use in their trail system.
all right,
So, and hopefully all trails are connected, right? So,
right,
that makes sense, I guess?
yes, it does.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Good enough. Are we done? Good night, you guys. Have a good.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you, David.
All right, moving on with the rest of the meeting. Our next order of business is to approve the minutes from Wednesday, September 9th.
I'll make a motion to approve those.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries 4 with 1 abstention. Next is a request in here, or a proposal, I guess we'll call it. The church steeple, there's some additional work that needs to be done. Mike from Steepleworks said that there's eight finials altogether that are no good, that need to be replaced up there. 2 of them were in the original quote, so he's still gonna do those 2. But the biggest problem is the guy that was making them before, that he used to buy them from, has passed away. And the new person that he's found that can make them charges an extra $125 a piece. He said that the 2 that he's gonna do, he will eat the cost because it was already awarded to do the 2, but he cannot eat the cost of the other 6 of them, and they're $550 a piece.
Yeah, Ken
Yeah.
and I were talking about that earlier. Currently, we're at 69 or 75,000.
$79,368, $66. Right, yeah, so we have $79,000 in that account. Well, hang on, because there's a second piece on here. There's a roof line that's just below the clock face, that was just tarred before, and that's what a good portion of the leaks have been that have happened up there. And it was discussed before of replacing that portion of roof all around it with a copper roof, so that it would match everything else and it would last pretty much forever. But with the cost of everything else going up, so is copper, and his total quote for all the work to strip it, fix it, and put the copper on it is $9,500. And he's just wondering, he said if he doesn't do the copper, he can get up there and repair it with asphalt again. However, not sure how long that's gonna last.
Let's do the copper.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the copper.
Okay, so your motion is to do the other 6 finials at $550 each and do the copper roof for $9,500?
I'll second that.
Any other discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, motion carries. While we're discussing the clock, I met with Mike from Steepleworks last Friday because Kerry was out of the office, and he just had a couple quick questions. I did call the rest of the board, but there was the original scope of work involved using a non-chemical solution to clean the copper, and that solution they tried and it's not even touching it. So what the final decision was is to just have him, he's going to use some good old-fashioned soap and water and get up there and scrub it and get all the dirt and debris off of it, and it should look halfway decent. And he also did find that while working on the faces, the clock faces, that there's only, originally he thought he was going to have to replace 3 of them, but there's really only the one that we knew was bad that is going to need to be replaced. And they were working on putting together something for that. But that the very back clock base, they're made out of real thin plexiglass. The new quote's going to be for, I believe it's 1/2-inch thick Lexian, so it'll be solid and last forever. But other than that, he said the job's gone really well. He's throwing pigeons out daily. Next on the agenda is the solar contract that we had, that we wanted to send to the town attorney, and the attorney got back and reviewed it and is okay with the contract. And this is for the solar project out at the sewer plant. So what we have here is the same contract we saw before, just looking for approval and a signature.
Well, that's for the letter of intent, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carries. There's only room for 1 signature, so I will sign it. Next, last night we had a budget committee meeting, and we set an agenda for pretty much most of the budget season. Our next meeting is going to be October 13th, here at the town hall at 6 o'clock, and then the 27th, if we need, we're going to have a meeting on the 27th, and on the 17th, November 17th, we're looking to meet with the health agencies, and Saturday the 21st will be the Saturday department head meeting. And then the schools meeting Tuesday, December 1st at 6 o'clock, and then Tuesday, December 8th with the budget committee. But they're starting discussion on their budget tomorrow night at their school board meeting. And the school's already set their deliberative session. Theirs is gonna be Saturday, January 30th at 9 a.m. And we need to set ours. We haven't set our deliberative session yet.
What's the first Saturday in February?
The first Saturday of February, I don't have a calendar right here in front of me. The 6th? The 6th is the first Saturday.
That's correct.
When's the last day to hold deliberative? 6th? So, I mean, we can plan it for that Saturday and pray that it doesn't snow. So that will,
If it does, we'll have a small crowd.
yep. So is that your,
Yeah, that's some second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. So February 6th at 9 a.m. here at the town hall will be the town's deliberative. Yep.
So the health agency meeting, is that going to be a collaborative between us and the budget committee? Because I know we always meet with the health agency.
Yeah, we didn't even discuss that last night, but that's not a bad idea. I think that's how we did it last year too.
But
tried to-
I think it was at a regular select board meeting last year.
No, it was a budget meeting last year, yeah.
Okay.
No, that's actually a good idea. So I would request that the select board, well, actually, we should post a selectmen meeting for that same night. That would be,
That's Tuesday.
Tuesday, November 17th at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
We'll post a selectmen meeting and, then we can not have to make them all come in twice. Next on the agenda, Carrie's been finishing up the LCHIP paperwork for the church steeple project, and it was brought to our attention that we need to, or that we should, adopt the Land Use Trust Alliance standards and practices. And this is basically just so that payment can be made from the grants, as long as we're following these standards and practices. So,
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
any other discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. We got an update here from Aqualogic. They did some diving out at Forest Lake, and they surveyed, the divers surveyed and harvested the areas that were marked by DES, and then they surveyed past the boat launch and the public beach to the campground beach, and no milfoil was found during that part of the survey. During this, where they did harvest, where it was marked by DES, they did harvest 30 gallons of milfoil. Yeah, it looks like the time in the water, they were only in the water 14 hours and out of the water for 18, so they only got, is that 22 hours invested in it? And we have, there was a question asked to our attorney on the housing standard ordinance about whether there needs to be a public hearing or not. And the attorney said that no, he did not see where it needed to be, a public hearing needed to be held on it. And I have not had a chance to finish reading and thinking on this, so I don't know how the rest of the board feels about this.
I'm fine with it as it's written. Well, we need to get it, we've been going
Well, realistically, yes, but also realistically, we have till, it's gonna be a warrant article, so we have, and if we don't have to have a public hearing, then there's no other rushes added to it. I'd like at least one more week to finish reading it. I don't see where it's gonna hurt to wait one more week myself, but that's my feeling.
We went over all the changes, though, I mean, right?
Yeah, most all the changes we went over during meetings and during, I'd like one more week. That's my opinion, though.
That's fine.
All right, moving on. The next thing we have in here is an oath of office for Michael Coop as the town clock custodian. And we've already made a motion on this, so we just need to sign this.
So moved.
We don't need none.
Okay. Just want to make it officially official. I just want to get Mike up there and start winding it. If we can.
Well, right now we have to take it apart, so we can't wind it.
True.
All right, next we have request for payment. Jim Tatro would like to get a TD Bank card, same limit as the other department heads, which is $2,000. Purchases would mainly be for the post office and stuff like that, same as normal. So I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. And there's payment from the Sewer Capital Reserve Fund to, I don't know how you pronounce that, Xylem, maybe? Water Solutions USA for $5,248.21.
That's for your new pump, Rick?
Yes, it's excellent. That's a flight variable. It's, that's for the septic receiving well.
Okay.
One of the pumps is burnt out right now. We'll ship it down to Woburn to have it checked out, or we go with another spare.
Yeah.
We're running off one pump right now in the septic well.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Next is two here out of the Red Committee funds. First one's to Jason Kielbler? Kerber. Okay. For $300, and one to the town of Winchester for $100.
I'll make a motion to approve both of those.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries.
You left your cord here.
The next one's a payment of the invasive plant capital reserve fund to Aqualogic for $206.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. And the last one is payment out of the cemetery donation checking account to TD Bank Card Service for $452.
Make a motion to approve that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. That's everything in the folder. That's everything on the agenda. Does anybody else from the board have anything?
Right, Chan, were you able to get any prices from Mike Patno on brush hogging? No. I think he's working on the rails right now, isn't he? Yeah.
Anything else from the board?
I wasn't here last week, and I'd like to take a minute to thank all the people that worked at the election. They did an excellent job.
Thank you.
The landfill, still no improvements out there, I've heard. So we need to, I think we need to get them in here for non-public some week here soon.
Yep. Carrie, can you reach out to Monadnock and see when they can come in and meet with us?
Contract is fairly new, but I would like to see it and just, look at it.
Right.
Should be a copy.
There should be a copy right in the office.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. I went out one day and there was a bunch of people out there cleaning, and then I went out a week later and everything they cleaned was destroyed again, and I asked Dan what was going on, and he didn't really have any intentions of doing much more. So,
That's why we need to get the others.
yep. Anything else from the board? All right. At this time, I'll open it to the public for the 15 minutes of public comment.
Ben, I didn't hear you comment with regard to the COVID funds, so I just wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you from the school. This week, FEMA came out with some new information with regard to what they were going to allow school systems to put into requests for grant. And we were, many school districts were kind of left hanging, anticipating that they were going to be able to take advantage of some extra funds through FEMA for COVID-related expenses that the school districts have had to incur. So when that wasn't possible, a lot of conversations started happening between various business administrators at the school level and at the town level, and we were informed that we could indeed take advantage of some of the funds that the town got through CARES Act. And so, working quickly, on the day that it was due, I just wanted to give a shout out and a thank you to the board and to Carrie, because we were able to take advantage of potentially, as long as they go through at the town level, at that, some funds for some COVID-related expenses. I mean, the COVID expenses for the school, the money that we got from the CARES grant, it's quickly evaporating to almost nothing. Those expenses, to be able to take advantage of the CARES Act through the town, I just wanted to say thank you for that. And I didn't hear you mention it, so I wanted to make sure to explain some of that background.
Yeah, it was on my mind and then I forgot.
That's okay. I'm going to discuss it again tomorrow at our board meeting, and so I just wanted all of the boards to be on the same page that happened within this week. But kind of going along with that, I did just want to say, I heard you say something as part of the meeting. It sounded like you had some fast-acting decision-making to take place with regard to something to do with the steeple, whether it was cleaning it and you said that you called the rest of the board and you informed them or updated them. And I just want to throw out there, because I think that this sometimes happens quite innocently, where we have a conversation with a member of the board, and then we have a conversation with another member and another member and another member, and that's still a meeting. So when those conversations happen, please just remember to come to the board and to at least announce it as part of the public meeting so that it can be documented that you did have that conversation. And again, I understand that they happen, and sometimes they have to happen in real time and they can't wait for the meeting. It's just that chance to say, the conversation happened and this was the decision that came from it.
Well, that's why I brought it up, because there was no decisions made from our conversations, because there was no decision that...
There wasn't any motion needed to be made.
Right, there was...
More informational.
Right.
I know, and that's...
Mike from Steepleworks contacted me and told me that the solution was not working, so all he could do was clean it with soap and water. And Carrie was not here for him to reach out to and let her know. So he'd called me, and I just called the rest of the board to let them know that it's going to get washed with soap and water instead of whatever the solution was he was going to use. That's what that phone call was. There was no decision making, or there was no...
It's still communication. It doesn't necessarily have to be a decision. It's still a quorum that occurs when you talk to him and him and him and her. So just a reminder, because the week before, when I asked about the policy book, you said, we decided that we were gonna go through the policy book one by one, and then you said, well, I decided. So conversations happen. You've all mentioned that you don't wear a mask because you regularly are together and you consider yourself a cohort, and that's all well and good. But I'm here at every meeting, and then you mention something that hasn't been mentioned before, and it leaves me wondering when that conversation happened and what else happened in the conversation.
Nothing else happened in the
So I'm more
conversation.
just providing you a little bit of,
That's why I brought it up during the meeting, was that there was a
Excellent.
conversation on the phone.
and I hope you continue to do that.
Thank you.
I had one last question. You said, or you just sounded like Carrie was dealing with something for the steeple grant, and you adopted a policy for land use. Could you just explain that real quick?
No, it's not a land use policy.
I might have just, I'm misheard or,
It's the Land Trust Alliance Standards and Practices.
so is that just a boilerplate template that came from like the municipality association?
The LCHIP grant requires us to follow certain rules and
Oh, I'm
procedures.
fully aware of having
on
policies like
historical
that. Yeah,
buildings, so-
okay, all right. So that's going to be adopted as part of your policy book,
No,
No.
just for this grant.
just for the grant, okay. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public? Oh. Come on up, Kevin.
Good evening, Ben. Kevin Bazan, Swan Street, Winchester, for the Winchester Pickle Festival. As we all know, next Saturday was supposed to be the Winchester Pickle Festival. It is not happening this year, but it is next year on September 25th, 2021. I just wanted to give the selectmen a heads up, or just to let the selectmen know that some members of the Pickle Festival Committee will be doing some light decorating for downtown next week, just to give the downtown area a little bit of a harvest feel with some mums and some pumpkins and some corn stalks. And we'll be putting out the flags for the week that we usually have along Main Street during Pickle Festival week. I know Henry has cleaned up in the past, and I just wanted to pass along that he doesn't have to do that. I mean, I'll make sure that everything gets cleaned up afterwards.
Okay,
Okay?
all right, thank you. Thank you, Kevin. I like that idea. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Board. Sir, I had a chance to speak with Mike also on Friday when we met downtown lot. And although the east face is the worst and has to be replaced, we were discussing the fact that we could, and he did this on the one he took away. He actually sanded that kindergarten paint job off,
Right.
off the face. And we were talking about really substantial decals to go on the faces of the remaining faces, because they're in the same deplorable shape
Right.
as far as being painted on. And I don't know what the cost would be, but would the board entertain at least soliciting a quote to take care of that compared to what we spent so far? And the
I thought he was, last time he talked to me about the clock faces, I thought he said he was pulling all of them out anyway.
I haven't disconnected it, but there was mention of the fact that we may not do anything with the glass, but the glass face on that, the one which faces Route 10, does have
Well, he's,
significant
yeah.
damage. to
We'll
the
have
paint.
Kerry reach out to him and see what he's already gonna be doing and what else we would need a quote on, but I'm pretty sure when I talked to him, he was gonna pull them all out. Clean up what needed to be cleaned, repair what needed to be repaired.
The
paint.
Lexano, the plexiglass, it sanded right off.
Right.
The problem when you get into that though, is sanding it may refract the light a little bit differently from inside.
Right.
So we want to be careful about that.
Right.
The other thought that I had, and I mentioned this to Kerry, is that the area which was leaking, which is on the south side, which is the side that faces the town hall here, the overflow from those buckets has severely eroded the wood. And when I had to disconnect from the motion works, the shafts from the turret, you literally have to straddle the clock. And if you have to straddle the clock to clean and lubricate, it's a little disconcerting when you see all of those grimy wheels below you.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Right? So I was wondering if, since this is part of these church steeple and repairs, is there any chance that we might be able to at least come up with, 3 2x8s would do the job, to replace those floorboards that are between the clock and the outside wall.
Right.
Because you cannot stand
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
No, I know which ones you're talking about. Yeah, I don't see where there'd be a problem with that. We gotta make sure it's,
Probably about 31 inches maybe, so I would
Yeah.
think we could probably. Okay. Yeah, it's either that or you fall down the shaft where the weight is, you know? Okay.
yeah.
That's all it's gonna take, just a crowbar and a couple of screws, and deck screws. And
Yeah, we want to make it up there safe for you and anybody else who goes up there, for sure.
Yeah, that was the only problem that I had, because it's gonna be tough navigating in front of it, you have to stand in front of it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mike.
Hello, I'm Natalie Cavado, 112 Willard Street. I know we talked about this after the meeting was adjourned last time, but we talked about Mike possibly being on the agenda and not taking up 15 minutes of public comment. So could we please add him to the agenda because he is part of the committee?
Yep,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Anybody else from the public have anything? All right, I will entertain a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A32.
So moved.
Wait a minute, little, little C and E and A, right? Carrie? Is that A? Yeah,
AC,
ACE,
yes.
yep.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Jack Marsh.
Aye.
James Rhodes. Herb Stevens. Gloria Lustak.
Aye.
Ben Kalinsky, aye. We are now in non-public, and I do not see us having any other business.